Today's daf is daf Chav Ches, and just to review what we saw at the bottom of Chav Zayin Amud Beis on daf that we did yesterday, just to give us an easy takeoff, we saw two different versions of a statement attributed to Rabbi Yochanan. One was Rabba Bar Bar Chana in the name Rabbi Yochanan, and the other was the Ika di Amri, the second Lishna. And basically, the subject is the prohibition of enjoying the benefits of an idolater doctor. And the rule of thumb was either a makkah shel cholol or any sort of makkah that we would be machal Shabbos for, meaning it's an injury that could lead to a life-threatening situation. And the Gemara here on the top of our Amud Chav Ches explains that the nafkamina is going to be an external makkah that could be dangerous. Because if the prohibition of using an idolater as a doctor only applies to a makkah shel cholol, which means an internal injury, then it doesn't apply to a makkah on top of the hand or on top of the foot. And in those cases, you're allowed to enjoy the benefit of an idolater physician. If, on the other hand, any makkah for which machal Shabbos, and therefore it's a life-threatening situation, then even this kind of a makkah, al gav hayad or al gav haregel, could be life-threatening, and therefore we would be allowed to seek medical treatment from the idolater. So now we're going to start with the third line from the top of Chav Ches where we left off yesterday, quoting, as it were, a statement. I'm sorry, a little bit later on. Just 1 second. That's 5 lines down from the top of quoting a statement of our Zutra Bar Tuvia Omarav, Kol Maka Shetzricha Omed. Now, Omed means when we shots up a medical injury to figure out whether or not there's a life-threatening situation, and Mechalon Ales HaShabbos. If we have a patient who's suffering from some injury and we want to know, does he have a chance to live or not? Then in such a case, we will be Mechal Shabbos, because that's definitely a life-threatening situation. The very fact that we need an Omed is proof positive that it's a life-threatening situation. Amar Rav Shemen Bar Abam Rabbi Yochanan, V'hai ishta tzmirta kimaka shel chol da michal es Shabbos. So let's say you have a fever of, for example, 104 in Fahrenheit. According to Moshe Feinstein, even if you have a fever of 102, which is 38.9 degrees Celsius, it's considered a burning fever and will be Machal Shabbos. So there's a famous story that my father used to always tell me that he heard from his Rebbe, Rav Moshe Soloveitchik, that when he, Rav Soloveitchik, Rav Yosheber, was a young child, he came down with a very high fever. And this happened when Rav Moshe Soloveitchik with his family was just a wife and one baby child, the Bechar Yosheber. They were in Brisk. And in the presence of Reb Chaim, who's the grandfather of Yosheber, the physician said, you got to turn down the lamp. You know, they had those fire kind of lamps. And that's because it was bothering the eyes of the baby who had a high fever. And it could be dangerous. And Rav Moshe hesitated. The father of the child hesitated. And Reb Chaim picked up his foot banged down on the ground and said, "I'm a oretz, you're an ignoramus," meaning you should have, without hesitation, lowered the light because of the high fever the child is suffering from. The Gemara now wants to know mehechon maka shel cholol, meaning we established that if there's an internal injury, then we violate the Shabbos. What's considered internal? From where in the body and going inside the body? And Piresh Rabbi Ami min asafa v'lifnim, from the lips and inward. That's called internal, and that's dangerous. So, for example, if he has something inside his mouth, that would be considered, according to this statement of Rabbi Ami, as a life-threatening situation because it's a makkah shel cholol. Boy, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Elazar was vacillating about this. He wasn't sure. Kochi v'shine mai. What's the status of kochi, which are the gums, and shine are the teeth? The truth is that you could die from a tooth disease. My father told me about a Rebbe in the yeshiva. His name was Reb Shlomo Palachek. There are many, many cities in Israel that have streets named after him called Rehov HaIlui. He was an unbelievable genius. He died at the age of 52 from pyorrhea, which is a gum disease that started with the teeth, affected the gums, and then spread throughout his body. Kevan dakushe ninhu, shall we say that since the gums and the teeth, by and large, are very powerful, very strong, and sturdy parts of the body, kemaka divroi domi, we should consider it as an external injury, and therefore it's not a makkah shel chol, it's not internal, and therefore we don't violate the Shabbos. So Dilma, kevan de gavoi kaimi, since they are from the lips and inside, based on the formulation of Rabbi Ami that we just saw, kemaka shel chol domi, Amar Abaye tashma hachoshesh b'shinov. Now we have to emphasize the word choshesh. Choshesh is a very kind of low-profile word. In other words, he's not feeling so well. He has soreness in his teeth. Lo yigma behenes hachometz. He should not implement on Shabbos any sort of medicinal treatment because we don't do medicines on Shabbos. And now Abayis medayek from the language of this hachoshesh b'shinov, which is actually a Mishnah at the end of Masechet, towards the end of Masechet Shabbos, that choshesh hu delo. When is it prohibited for him to engage in some sort of a therapeutic? It says here, yigma b'anis hachometz. He gargles, so to speak, with vinegar because of his tooth, trouble. That's only because it's choshesh. But hakoyev letuva, if he's in pain, which might mean that he has a root canal problem, is shaper dummy. Then he's allowed to gargle with this vinegar. So we see clearly that when it says min asofel b'fnim, it includes even the teeth and the gums, and that's considered makkah shel chol, and we violate the Shabbos. Dilma, the Gemara rejects it. Tana heicha dekoyev letuva choshesh nami korile. Maybe the word choshesh, in which the Tana in the Mishnah towards the end of Shabbos prohibited gargling with vinegar because it's a type of medical treatment, he meant by choshesh that he's in great pain. So therefore, we don't have a clear-cut proof, as Abai thought he had, to establish that the gums and the teeth have a status of a makkah shel cholol, and we violate the Shabbos. Now, again, if we had time, there's a whole sugya here below the surface, because when you talk about gargling with vinegar, you're not talking about a violation of any of the 39 malachos. This is only a d'Rabbanan. The Rabbanan prohibited medical treatment on Shabbos, lest he come to shchikas samamonim, to grinding up different chemicals or whatever it might be, herbs, so that you and I would have said that if we're only dealing with something like gargling with vinegar, which is only an Isa Drabanan with a Gzera to Shchikas Samamonim, then we certainly could be makil and permit doing so in a case where he's in severe pain. And in fact, halacha paskins, again, this is a whole sugya which is not for us now, that you're allowed to administer medical treatment that doesn't involve any chil Shabbos for the sake of someone who's in such great pain that he has to get into bed, sleep it off, he can't function. Toshma. So now we're going to try to resolve this question that we had in a different way. Rabbi Yochanan Chosh b'tzavdina. Okay, we'll have to figure out what tzavdina is, but he was suffering from this disease. Azal Gabah Himatrinosa. There was a certain noblewoman who knew a lot about medicine and how to administer medical treatment. Of the Chamshu Mali Shabsa, she gave him a remedy. We'll see what that remedy is, and told him, Rabbi Yochanan, to use it on Thursday and Friday. Amar and Rabbi Yochanan asked the Lamachar, what do I do on Shabbos? Amar le lo tzrichas. You don't need. Hopefully you'll be okay by Friday going into Shabbos because of the remedies that I prescribed for you. In event that you still feel ill on Shabbos, Yitzrichemai, Amra ishtabali delo magalis. I'm going to give you a treatment, but because now you're in already the third day of suffering, you must be on a very advanced level of illness. Therefore, I'm going to give you a secret remedy on condition that you promise not to reveal to anyone. Ishtabal Yisrael delo magalia. He took an oath in the name of the God of Israel that he would not reveal the remedy, and Lemachar Nofik Darsha Galule. So she revealed the remedy, and apparently it helped him, and it was effective. Lemachar, the day afterwards, Nofak Drasha Bepirka, and he went ahead and publicly taught this remedy in his public lecture. So the Gemara immediately raises high heck. He took a shvua that he would not reveal it. The Gemara says there was a trick over here. What did Rabbi Yochanan swear, if we're careful about his language? Yisrael lo magalia. I swear that I will not reveal it to the God of Israel. Avali Ame Yisrael magalia, but to his people, the people of Israel, I will reveal it. So the Gemara asks, Vayikachil Hashem. I mean, this Matranusa, knew that he had taken an oath, and he tricked her, and did exactly what she didn't want him to do, and revealed the remedy publicly. And the Gemara answers the Galilei Mekar. This is a little bit of a difficult Gemara. The Gemara is saying that already before he went ahead and he revealed it to the people, he explained to her that he had never really taken an oath, and apparently she let it go by. Alma, but what do we see from this entire story? That tzavdina, which is some sort of a tooth ailment, is kemakashal chol damya. And that explains why he was not allowed to treat this medically, and it's considered like a life-threatening situation, even though, again, we're talking about an ailment in his teeth. Omar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, shani tzavdina, hoil umaschil b'peh v'gomer b'pnei me'ayin. This is a tooth disease that begins in the teeth, up in the mouth, and then it spreads to the intestines, to the kishkis, and that makes it into a makashal chol. So again, we have a big chiddush here in the Gemara. Makashal chol doesn't necessarily mean that right now, at this achshavi, at this present moment, there's an internal injury to one of the internal organs of his body. Even if right now it threatens to become, by spreading, an internal injury, therefore it already has the status of a makashal chol. So, for example, when you talk about violating the Shabbos or Yom Kippur and so forth and so on, the poskim say that if you're in a situation which will lead, if you don't take care of it now, to a sakonis nefashos, then we will override the Shabbos or Yom Kippur. My simone. How do I know if I have the symptoms of tzavdina? Rami midi bei kochi umaisi dama mi bei dori. It seems like even if he takes a piece of chewing gum into his mouth, or he takes his finger and he spreads, I don't know, toothpaste on his gums, very subtle kind of contact with his gums, he starts bleeding. He knows, therefore, that he has tzavdina. Mimai havi. Interesting, the Gemara is medical, this is like a medical text. What causes tzavdina? Mikrire krire dechite, or michamime chamimi desari. Either if he eats cold wheat foods, foods that are made out of wheat that are very, very cold. Excuse me, sorry. Okay, so you have to avoid these very cold foods that are made out of wheat or barley foods that are very hot. Interesting. Umishiri kosa de harsana. Now, kosa de harsana comes up all over Shas. They used to take fish and they added wheat flour and other things, and they would fry it on a pan. And apparently, it has a very limited shelf life. And if you leave it overnight, it could be very dangerous and it causes safdina. My Avdali, what actually was this remedy that she administered to Rabbi Yochanan and then he revealed it? Amar of Acha Bredu Rava Mi Mesior. Okay, this is something called yeast water and olive oil, right? That's shemen zayit, umelch and salt. Mar Bravashi Omar, right? He had a totally different take on what was the remedy that she offered. Mishcha di avza, avza is a goose, and mishcha is the fat of a goose. Begadfa di avza. And it's not enough that you apply it to your teeth with whatever you want to use. You have to use a feather from a goose. Omar Abaye, Anoa Avdi Kulu. I tried each one of these possibilities. Velo ist itatse. Itatse means uh, health. I wasn't restored to health. I don't know if you heard of a chain of hospitals in Israel called Asuta. My son worked for one of those hospitals in the branch in Ashdod. Now, the word asuta for a hospital comes from this Gemara here and many other Gemaras. Asuta means a cure in Aramaic. Again, I don't think it's an Aramaic word originally, but Adi Amarleyahu Taya. Taya we've had many, many times in Shas. That's a kind of an Arab traveler. You know, he goes on his camel from place to place and he knows a lot. You know, he picks up wisdom in the various places. He's a merchant. And I see Kashiosa de Zesa de Lomolu Tilsa. When Abaye took sick with Tzavdina, he tried all these other remedies, and the only one that worked was the remedy that he got from this Arab merchant to take pits of olives that did not grow a third, right? So these are premature olives that were plucked off from the tree. Uklinu amora de chatzah, and he burnt them on top of a hoe, right? So the hoe was burning hot. And Vidavik Beitidari, he puts them on the row of teeth, apparently after they cooled off. And Avdi Hachi, so it worked. Rabbi Yochanan Hechi Ovid Hachi, how could Rabbi Yochanan have gone to this idol worshiper, meaning this Matronisa, Omar Rabbi Yochanan called Maka We don't seek treatment from these idol worshippers. And the reason for it is because the man is in such great danger and his life is threatened, then she'll probably kill him. He'll push him over the ledge, and nobody will blame her for that. She won't risk her reputation because he was anyway in death's row. And the answer is Adam Chashuv Shiny. She would be afraid to kill him because of his, shall we say, status in governmental circles. And even a pagan noblewoman would be inhibited to harm him. The Gemara doesn't like it. Rabbi Abba is also an Adam Chashuv. Now, we had Rabbi Abba earlier in the Masechet. He used to engage the early Minim in debates. They didn't appreciate him. Anyway, Ramalei Yaakov Minos Sama Ashke. We spoke about Yaakov the Min many times. He came up in this Gemara and in Pesachim. And he, Rabbi Avo from Caesarea, was suffering from a leg disease, a major injury, and he went to this Yaakov the Min, and he was from Kfar Sachnia. I forgot the name of the place, right? And Rav Yaakov from Misachnia applied some sort of a salve to Rabbi Abo's leg. Ve'ilo Rabbi Ami Rav Asi d'lachuz l'shake paske l'shake. So these two Amoraim actually saved Rabbi Avo from dying. So why did he, Rabbi Avo, expose himself to such a dangerous situation? And the answer is apparently because he's also an Adam Chashuv. And yet, despite the fact that he's an Adam Chashuv, apparently Yaakov the Min almost killed him, because if not for the intervention of Rabbi Amir of Asi, his leg would have been amputated, and he probably would have died from loss of blood. So you see that, your answer that Rabbi Yochanan was allowed to go to the noblewoman because he was on a chashuv, that really doesn't hold water. You see the danger involved in going to a pagan min, even for an Adam chashuv like Rabbi Abba, like Rabbi Avo. So your answer is Rabbi Yochanan Rofe Mumcha Hava. Rabbi Abba, yeah, okay. So the Gemara now answers the following: that when Rabbi Yochanan went to this noblewoman, she was apparently a physician, a well-known practicing physician, and she would certainly not want to endanger her good reputation, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan took the license to go and seek out her medical remedies. But the Rabbi Avo, we're assuming at this point, the Gemara is going to reject it right out, when he went to this voodoo guy, this Yaakov Sachnia, the Min, he wasn't the Rofe. So the Gemara asked Rabbi Avo, Nami Rofe Mucha. That's not true, because even Yaakov of Sachnia was considered an expert who would not want to, endanger himself. And yet he almost killed him, Rabbi Avo. Shiny Rabbi Avo, de mukmi be mini benafshayu Thomas nafshi implishtim. Even though the Minim realized that by killing, in the process of medical treatment, by killing Rabbi Avo, they would endanger their good reputation. They didn't care. Thomas nafshi implishtim. It's like Shimshon HaGibor wants to take down the whole, the whole, all the plishtim down with him. His desire to kill the plishtim is so great that he's willing to die together with them by wrecking the building. So too, the Minim are willing to give up everything just for the sake of the opportunity to kill Rabbi Avo. And the reason for this is Rabbi Avo is Muki Be Mini Benafshai, right? He was the one who would constantly engage in rejecting all the arguments of the Mina. So they held a real enmity towards Rabbi Avo, and they said, I don't care if I go down as long as we can kill him. Omer Shmuel, Hai Pida Asa. Okay, now we get to various illnesses, ailments. Now we talk about a wound that's caused by Nebuch, a slash of a knife or a sword. Sakanti, it's very life-threatening. Michal, unless a Shabbos, we violate the Shabbos. Maya Suta. What's the remedy for such rule? A mifsak dama. Okay, now first of all, the Gemara says that this is the immediate urgent need, right? First response, and that is to stop the bleeding. Is tachli bechala. Okay, so what he needs is he has to take some sort of an herb and soak it in vinegar. La suke. Okay, so now he stopped the bleeding. Now what does he do to heal the wound? Is garda de yavla vigirda dasat. Right, he takes a scrapling of yivla and scraplings of thorn bushes. Apparently yivla, he says here in the article that yivla is a species of grass identified as cynodon, cynodon, or alternatively, nikra mikalkalisa, or it takes the peckings of a trash heap. That doesn't sound very attractive, but apparently you crush the worms that chickens peck at in the trash heap, and this could help him for this wound that he got from a sword. Omer of Safra, Hai Inbisa. Okay, now we're talking about different kinds of boils. Some look this way, some look that way. So it's got pus inside a boil. And this one is invisa. It looks like a grape. I guess it's shaped in an oval kind of shape. Pravakna de malchosa de mosahi. This is very dangerous. This is the forerunner of the Amal Chamovs. Amal Chamovs is right there behind him. Mayasuta, what remedy? Tigna bedushna. Okay, there's a certain kind of grass called Tigna bedushna. And what you do is you grind it up, mix it with honey. Duvsha is honey. Tigna is a tigna grass. He says it's a plant called rue, R-U-E. I don't know if it has any sort of hallucinatory drug. I don't know. But anyway, it's called grass. But I don't know if that proves anything. But anyway, karpasa betilta tilyola. Maybe he could use wild celery, and you grind it up and mix it with strong wine. Okay, and hadahachi vahachi. In the meantime, until the boil is healed, lysi invisa barmina. He should bring a grape that looks in its shape like the boil. Vinagde iloya, and roll the grape over the boil. Chivarti chivarti, if he has a whitish boil, I guess the pus is spread throughout the boil so it looks white. Then he should take a white grape, the uchme luchme, and he has a black boil, then he should take a black grape. So whatever it is, he's got to get the right color grape. And in the meantime, until he fulfills all the requirements of the remedy with the grass and the honey, he's going to roll this grape over his boil. Amar Rava Hai Simta. So Simta, which usually means some sort of like a crossroads, a corner, but here it means something totally different. It's called an abscess, a blister that's filled with pus. Pravanka de ishtahi. Okay, it's the first step towards a high fever, and therefore it's very dangerous. And therefore, Mayasuta, what remedy do you need? Lemiche shitin is kulte. He should hit the abscess with 60 snaps of his finger. I don't know, I guess he bangs with his finger over and over again. Vilikare shesi viarev, and then he cuts the boil shesi v'arav, like making an X uh, over the boil. However, hani mili delo chiva reshe, aval chiva reshe leslon ba. He doesn't have to get nervous and concerned if the abscess has on its tip a whiteness. But if the tip is not white in its appearance, that's when he has to undergo all these remedies with the 60 snaps of his fingers and tearing up the boil in an X form. And now the Gemara tells a story about Rabbi Yaakov Chash b'pika.